Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Enfield in North London to Southgate. This ride takes about 20 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport the same journey takes a little longer, so you can save time by taking your bike. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to hit subscribe on the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute as well, you can find the link to our Patreon page in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting on Windmill Hill, just next to Enfield Chase railway station, and we're going to head down Gladbeck Way. This street is a cul-de-sac and is usually very quiet, with the exception of this first section. You do get some cars pulling into Gladbeck Way to use the supermarket car park there on our right, but once you get past the entrance to the car park, you're completely in the clear and you won't run into any cars. The route that we're taking today runs through a lot of cul-de-sacs like this, connected up with shared paths and also through parks as well. If you had to look at the map at the beginning, you'll remember that it's surprisingly direct, in fact probably more direct than taking the main road. There is a little bit of wayfinding to help you remember which way to go. If you look on the left there, you'll see a blue sign pointing down this road. We're following that, and there's another blue sign pointing left into this path as well. We'll also run into another one in a moment. These signs are a remainder of the old London Cycle Network route, which we're following for most of this journey. It's not a numbered route or anything like that, but the signs are a useful prompt nonetheless. We're now heading into a shared path, and you can see immediately the issue with this path. It is a little bit narrow, and we did struggle to overtake this woman here. I think she might have had headphones in when I was ringing my bell. But obviously do remember that when you're cycling down a path like this, even though it is a shared path and you're perfectly entitled to cycle here, just remember to keep an eye out for pedestrians, don't ride too quickly, and do give people priority. I would also note that this bit of path here doesn't seem to have any street lights, so if you're planning to do a ride through here at night, say maybe you're using it for a commute, make sure you do get a decent set of lights, including ones that face forward and light up the area around you. Also, while the path was surfaced, it did also have a lot of trees around it, and trees mean leaves, and when it's wet they mean wet leaves, which are slippy. So if you're going to cycle through there and it's been at all wet recently, and in England that means pretty much all the time, just be really careful and take it slowly. Now unfortunately there's a barrier to leaving this park, and that's that gate that we had to pass through. That's annoying for us on a regular bike, but if you're disabled and you're cycling, it can be really difficult to pass through. Some people can't dismount from their bikes, so I really hope that Enfield Council comes round and gets rid of that. I believe they are actually illegal under the Equality Act as well. Now we find ourselves on Uplands Way, and before I got to this place, when I saw it on the map, I just knew it would be a big hill. There's an Uplands Road in Haringey, which is also an incredibly steep hill, and I think it's just a name that developers of this era chose to call very steep hills to make them sound attractive to people buying homes. That's my theory anyway. Despite the steepness though, and I always say this on steep hills with low traffic, it's actually not a problem to ride up, because steep hills are only really a problem to ride up when you have to negotiate a load of traffic, but this is a cul-de-sac and it's really quiet. We've run into the odd car, but it's not really a problem, and actually I think when I cycled up here I probably ran into more than you would on average. We had a couple coming past us, we had one overtake us, and there's also this van coming through here at exactly the wrong point between those parked cars. And also see this Land Rover backing out here and taking a really long time of it. It looks like this place is absolutely chocker with cars, but there's really no reason for them to be here. It's actually a cul-de-sac, so all these vehicles just happen to be coming out and accessing properties on that very short road when we were there during that brief period. So I think when you come down here, you'll probably see far fewer cars than when I was here. That's just an educated guess anyway, so if any of you do cycle this route, let me know how it turns out. I'm interested to know. Now, don't miss the little blue shared space sign on the left here. You're allowed to cycle on this pavement here, just this section, and that's to help you cross Green Dragon Lane into Eversley Crescent. It would be great to see that upgraded into a parallel zebra crossing that you can cycle over to give us priority. So if Enfield Council's watching and they're looking for upgrades for this route, that would be one that I would put in right there. Now, Eversley Crescent itself is another rather steep hill, although in this direction we're in the downhill and it's great fun to ride, but don't miss that blue sign on the right pointing us down this path. Now, this path is somewhat wider and better lit than the last one, but it does have a blind corner. So as you're approaching this blind corner here, go really slowly, or you will end up like these people who unfortunately ended up on the floor because, as you can see, they couldn't see each other as they were going around the corner. I did stop to check if they were okay, and they did not need my assistance, so I continued on. I'm glad everyone was okay there, but they were nicely illustrating the issue with that blind corner there. So yeah, if the council's watching, actually really important to try and maybe remove some of that fence so people can see each other. This spot here, crossing into Stonehall Road, is also another excellent opportunity for a parallel zebra crossing if the council wanted to turn this into a proper cycle route. I know that Enfield Council is a great council when it comes to cycling actually. They do a really good job. They're a mini Holland borough, so they got a load of funding to make sure that their links were up to scratch. This would be a decent place to spend a little bit of cash just to get a big return, a nice quiet way between Enfield and Southgate. You could also upgrade the existing zebra crossing here to be a parallel crossing to give a bit of priority for bikes as well as they go into the park. I'd also recommend that both of these gates are opened at a time just to allow people to cycle into the park without conflicts with pedestrians. You're now cycling into Groveland Park, which was originally the grounds of Groveland's house. This house was built by a wealthy man named Walker Gray, who made his fortune in the brewing industry. But the grounds of the house were purchased by the local council, the borough of then Southgate, in 1913 and turned into a public park. And a very nice public park it is too. Just make sure that you don't miss this turn off right. You do have to double back on yourself a little bit here. Those of you who are more observant may notice the cut in the video there, and that cut is because I originally took the wrong turn and I had to go back and film it again. Now, the grounds of the house may have been bought by the council and turned into a public park, but the house itself was not. The house itself is in the ownership of the Priory, which is a private mental health hospital group, which is most famous, I think, for taking celebrities in rehab. It's a very expensive place to go. It has a particular claim to fame, this house, in that it was actually the place where General Pinochet, the former dictator of Chile, was held under house arrest in 1998. One thing that I should say about this park from a practical cycling perspective is that it does close at night. So if you need to come through here on, say, a late commute back from work, it's not ideal, but to be honest, it's not the end of the world. You can cycle on Park View Road and Winchgate, which run parallel and are reasonably quiet. In fact, we'll actually be going on to Winchgate very briefly later in the ride. I suggest you use this exit from the park with the long tunnel of fences and walls, and we'll turn off onto Queen Elizabeth's Drive. Now, when I see the word Queen Elizabeth, I immediately think, Queen Elizabeth II, who just passed away. But I have good reason to believe that this road is actually named after the original Queen Elizabeth I of the Tudor period. The reason for that is that the roads around here actually have Tudor referencing names. So in a second we'll turn on to Raleigh Way, which is a reference to Sir Walter Raleigh, who was a figure in the Tudor court. Also, if you look at the homes, they do seem to predate, a lot of them, the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. And there's another clue, which is that the style of a lot of these homes we're looking at on the right is mock Tudor. So it does make sense that a Tudor name was chosen. This is Raleigh Way here. Clearly whoever built this had Tudor in mind. So I think that's probably Queen Elizabeth I's Drive, although they probably didn't call it that because at the time they built these homes, there probably wasn't yet a Queen Elizabeth II. Now we're pretty close to the end of our ride here. We're going to come out on a road called the Bourne, which is right next to Southgate tube station. And although I won't get to it quite in the video, I really recommend that you go up and have a little look at Southgate tube station if you've not seen it before, because it is incredibly cool. You can just see it there in the distance right at the end of the road, but if you get there up close, you'll see it looks like a big Art Deco flying saucer, which is awesome in my opinion. But we've made it. We're here in Southgate and we've come all the way from Enfield Chase. I dismounted there as I was walking from the pavement, by the way. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed that, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. And if you really like what we're doing on the channel, you could always consider contributing to the Patreon. There's a link in the description below the video where you can find that. Thank you so much to those of you who already do. I'm really interested to hear what you think of that route. Do let me know in the comments below, and also let me know where you'd like to see other routes around London. I'm always open for suggestions and requests. I'll see you guys again next time. Make sure you slam that like button, leave a comment and subscribe. Thanks again. Goodbye.